Canada is now facing a new wave of the pandemic fueled by Omicron. Cases are soaring to numbers not seen before just as the holidays approach. In some parts of the country, infections have tripled in just 10 days. Ottawa is implementing new travel restrictions on Tuesday. The Prime Minister is asking Canadians to be particularly careful over the next few weeks to try and help frontline healthcare workers help Canadians. I sat down with Justin Trudeau on Friday morning for a wide-ranging year-end interview. We met in Montreal at the mass vaccination clinic at the Olympic Stadium. I'll start just by saying hello, and that we are wearing masks because we are in the vaccine clinic and because of the situation that's changing in Quebec.
Yep.
We're going to wear them, even though we didn't plan to do it this way. This is life right now. So I want to start obviously with the pandemic and Omicron and the fact that there is widespread community transmission in this province, in Ontario and some other places. And scientists in the UK now say that the reproduction number of Omicron is between 3 and 5. What is your biggest concern right now?
Well, my biggest concern is our healthcare workers. You know, I know all Canadians are frustrated right now. All Canadians don't want to be facing this and just want it to be gone and want to have a regular Christmas. But who's even more exhausted than Canadians are our frontline health workers, the people giving vaccines, the people caring for people in critical care units. They've gone flat out for 2 years, and now they're facing a winter that could be much, much worse because of Omicron. And all of us, we know this now. We can impact what the winter is going to look like if we hunker down, if we stay safe, if we get the booster shots, if we keep our distances, if we change our plans a bit to be a little more careful over the next 2 weeks. It'll make a huge difference for our frontline health workers.
But did you think that we would end up in this place where we are seeing thousands and thousands of cases a day in some parts of the country?
Well, I think every step of the way we've seen that the unexpected is happening. This is why we're prepared for it to a certain extent. I mean, first of all, Canada's secured millions and millions of booster shots into the next few years exactly for these opportunities. We're securing rapid tests, and Canadians now know a lot more about how to keep themselves safe, how to keep their communities safe. We're tired of having to do it, but we also know, because we've proven it, we can go through these waves and get back to normality a bit more and then have to tighten up. It's something we're all learning how to do.
Sure, but I think what's different this time, and I think you heard it a little bit on the Premier's call, on your last call, was the expression that people are at their peak tolerance, and that imposing more restrictions could actually invite non-compliance. And I wonder, when you're thinking about that, because I'm sure you do, does that factor into your decision making? The fact that there is peak tolerance for a shutdown and for more rules in life?
Omicron doesn't care if we're tired of restrictions. It's going to keep doing what it does anyway. And we have a choice, because we've seen it so many times. If we act early and carefully to hold back, to starve Omicron, right? If we, over the next 2 weeks, don't feed it, don't give it opportunities to spread more than it has to, we'll have a much better winter and a way better spring. We know that. We've been through this before. We're tired of it. But Canadians are now empowered with knowledge. We've shown the highest vaccination rates of so many other countries because people are doing the right thing. We know what to do. So as governments, we can be strongly recommending. We don't have to be enforcing rules to the same high degree where, yes, there is a possible pushback, and rely a lot on what Canadians have shown, which is a thoughtful reasonableness, a willingness to protect our frontline health workers and protect our most vulnerable.
Boosters seem to be key against this variant, but not every province is rolling them out in the same way. I wonder if that worries you, if you think they should be widened out as quickly as possible to all ages.
Provinces will make their decisions. Our job as a federal government is to ensure that there is enough booster supply for all Canadians to get vaccinated as quickly as they possibly can.
Sure, but are you worried that not everyone is going to get it as fast as they should?
We're encouraging everyone to get those boosters as fast as they possibly can.
At the peak, when we were doing our peak vaccine in June and July, it was about 3 million vaccines a week. I know you've got 16 million doses of boosters available. Would our delivery schedule allow us to do as many as 3 million a week if we need it?
Yes. We have enough on hand and enough coming in soon to cover everyone. That's not the limit. The limit is how exhausted our frontline health workers are, how we're able to mobilize people, how people will get their shots into arms.
The vaccine mandate, it was 2 shots in order to get on a plane, a train, work in the public service. This is not really a booster. This is a 3rd dose. Is that where the vaccine mandate is going to end up?
Those decisions will be based on what scientists are saying. The vaccine mandate in the first place was based on the best recommendations of experts. We will keep listening to experts because that's how we get through this.
But your best, I was talking to Dr. Fauci last week. He thinks it's 3.
If the data indicate that you should change the requirements, it'll be changed. But one thing is certain, that for optimal protection, a boost clearly is indicated.
Is that where you think it's headed?
I think it's probably headed that way, but let's allow time for people to get vaccinated. But yes, get that booster. But I think the principle of making sure that people can get on planes and trains and feel safe, we're going to need boosters.
Obviously, Omicron has restarted that conversation around vaccine equity around the world. And I know we've already given millions of doses to COVAX and to other countries. Is there anything else Canada can do beyond donating vaccines? Can we provide leadership? Can we push other countries to contribute? And what are your thoughts on how urgent that is?
We can and we have been. We were one of the early adopters of COVAX, of the ACT Day Accelerator. We're there to push other countries to do that. We're also working with the WTO around intellectual property and ensuring that we can create vaccine production facilities elsewhere around the world. These are things that matter, but it's not just about getting doses to countries around the world. It's about ensuring that they have the systems to get those doses into arms. Canada can and is helping on that as well.
The way provinces have used rapid tests, that's been a big conversation over the past couple of weeks. The way they've rolled out vaccines, the way they've imposed restrictions, it's been very different across the country. I wonder if you've ever wished or hoped that there was a more consistent or differently organized way to approach this pandemic.
There have been a few conversations about that, but we've seen countries that are very unitary in their approach, don't have provinces or states, face real challenges around the pandemic. I like the way Canada works because you get to test different things. I mean, on rapid tests, Nova Scotia has been leading for many, many months on distributing rapid tests, on using rapid tests in a really, really proactive way, and that's been really helpful. We can all learn from what they've done successfully and adapt it to other places. That's what having a more flexible system that responds to the situation in BC being different from the situation in Nunavut.
Yeah, but it also means that the response is uneven and that people are not doing things that they probably should be doing.
What we've been able to do as a federal government is gather together the provinces for like 35 FMMs through this First Ministers meetings to talk about aligning as much as possible while respecting the fact that things are different in Quebec than they are in Manitoba, and they always will be.
Was there ever a moment you thought maybe I should have pulled the trigger on that Emergency Measures Act?
No, because if I thought I needed to, I would have done it. But the reality is a lot of the things that were real challenges would have been challenges for the federal government to do, just as they were challenges for the provinces to do.
Provinces are still asking you for a conversation about healthcare funding. I think it's pretty obvious that the healthcare system is under very deep strain. Any kind of pandemic, any kind of major problem, and you can see how fragile it is. Are you willing to have that conversation soon? And what is actually on the table?
I have said many, many times, yes, let's have a long-term conversation about funding of our healthcare and increasing funding to healthcare after the pandemic, when the pandemic's over. Because during the pandemic, we've been investing billions of dollars in transfers to the provinces, as we just did in the fiscal update. More money for rapid tests, more money for boosters, more money for treatments. We are investing billions to the provinces in right now when it's needed. And yes, we're going to be there for the long term as well.
The Premier's agreed there's urgent, pressing need to act on long-term, sustainable healthcare funding.
Has the pandemic not exposed the province's arguments to show some truth that the healthcare systems are overwrought and strained? There aren't enough doctors and nurses, and you do need to think about some sort of long-term investment.
We do, but right now, we're just focused on getting through this pandemic, and that's why the federal government has been transferring billions upon billions of dollars to the provinces to help right now with clinics like this one, with extra supports, with the vaccines that come in. That's what our focus is now. But yes, this should be a proof point to the provinces that yes, the federal government is absolutely willing to step up on more healthcare. How much and what it looks like and what is needed, well, those are really important conversations to have.
Hi there. The government presented a snapshot of the country's economy this week as the cost of living is on the rise for Canadians. Plus, there is renewed controversy over Quebec's secularism law after a teacher in that province was removed from the classroom for wearing a hijab. Those are just two of the issues I discussed with the Prime Minister on Friday as we sat down for an interview at the vaccine clinic inside Montreal's Olympic Stadium. Because, of course, of the worry around the Omicron variant, we were both fully masked and physically distanced. Here's the second part of our conversation. I want to talk to you a little bit about the economy. You have said you're extremely concerned by the rising cost of living. You did renew the Bank of Canada's mandate to keep inflation between 3 and 5. You said your income supports are there to help people, childcare, housing. Will any of that, though, have an impact on inflation soon? Because people are feeling it right now.
This inflation crisis right now is a direct result of the global COVID crisis. It's happening in countries around the world. And Canada's decision to give the supports to people, whether it's families, whether it's workers, whether it's small businesses, has helped us in a whole bunch of different ways, even while this inflation crisis is raging around the world. We're going to continue to have people's backs. We're going to continue to look for all sorts of different ways to make sure life remains affordable. Childcare is a good example. It's going to affect a lot of families with thousands of dollars.
But not immediately.
But no, actually, that's not true. In Alberta and in Saskatchewan, they're going to cut in half childcare fees as of January. I mean, that's what they're able to do, and that's going to make a huge difference for a number of families, but not for everyone. So there's more things that we have to do, and we're going to keep doing it.
A strong monetary policy framework is the best weapon in our arsenal to keep prices stable and to keep inflationary pressures in check.
There are different views on what this inflationary period is or how long it will last, but the U.S. Federal Reserve seems to be backing away from the notion that it's transitory. They think that this is a little longer lasting than that. What is your view based on what you're told?
We're preparing for both outcomes. I know people are looking at, some people are saying, yes, it is transitory. Others are saying, no, it's more structural, it'll be long term. It's here, and we're dealing with it. There's a number of things we can do. First of all, we've seen supply chains that were set up for just-in-time delivery be really affected by this. We need to build more resilience, so we're investing in that. We've seen need for greater supports for vulnerable people. We're investing in that. There's responses, but we know that growing the economy, recovering the economy, depends in part on making sure that people can get through this crisis, and that's where we're continuing to invest.
We're in Quebec, where Bill 21 is, again, a topic of conversation. You've said this should be left up to Quebecers to fight this. In recent weeks, we've seen some cities outside of Quebec start to express their concern and say that they are going to also intervene.
As municipalities, we are banding together to send a clear message that a bill like this is unacceptable in our country, and if we don't act, I don't know who else will.
What could be the consequence of that, cities or other provinces getting involved in that conversation?
I think this is a really important conversation for everyone to have around how we stand up for fundamental rights. And quite frankly, Quebecers themselves. Quebecers are people who deeply believe in equality of sexes, believe in freedom of expression, freedom of conscience, and a whole bunch of Quebecers are now wondering about what happens in a free society when you tell a Muslim woman she can't keep her job because she's Muslim.
But 64% of Quebecers in a poll in September are fine with this. So I guess I'm asking you, as a Quebecer, if the rest of Canada starts to say, this is not good, stop this, what is Quebec doing? What is the consequence of that?
But this is not about Quebecers versus the rest of Canada. This is about all of us.
Oh, but could it not become that? Because you know that often happens.
Yes, but I don't think it should. And I think the reason that that I am reassured by that is there are an awful lot of Quebecers who, having seen not just the theoretical possibility, but a concrete example of someone losing the job, especially at a time when we know there's a labor shortage, we need to be bringing in more immigration to this country. We're not necessarily going in the right direction as a community if we're telling someone we're a free community, and yet you can't be a teacher if you're Muslim and wear a hijab.
Right, but if that is so important to you, if those are the values that are important to you, then why would you sit around and wait till it gets to the Supreme Court?
I am not sitting around and waiting.
Well, what are you doing?
I'm very much speaking out clearly, as I am, that I disagree and that I've always disagreed with Bill 21.
Yeah.
I have also stated that I am not taking off the table intervening at a future date in the legal court challenge, but right now it is Quebecers challenging their own government, which is, I think, the best and strongest way to give all Quebecers pause on something
But you are a
that
Quebecer and you're the Prime Minister. Is this not the moment to show leadership on this issue?
I have clearly said time and time again how opposed I am.
But I'm talking about doing things.
The challenge we have on this one is making sure that people understand that fundamental rights need to be defended. And yes, governments can and should defend them and have a role in it, but our fellow citizens can also be standing up for each other. And that's what we're seeing in Chelsea, where the community, where the families, where the kids, where everyone is saying, hey, this is wrong, that a young Muslim teacher loses her job just because she's Muslim.
On the first National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, you went to Tofino for a holiday. I know you've said it was a mistake, you regret it.
This is an important moment for Canada and for Canadians to reflect not just on the past, but on the present. I was in error to choose to travel on that day.
You've also said you try to learn from mistakes. What did you learn from this one?
I learned that even though we held an important ceremony the night before on Parliament Hill, even though I spent that morning talking to survivors of residential schools and hearing their stories, the choice I made was the wrong one. And I should have stopped in at Kamloops. And when I went to Kamloops a few weeks later, I apologized directly to them, and we talked about that healing path that we all have to be really thoughtful about.
I guess I feel like I ask you this question every year, where you make a mistake that seems so obvious to me, like something that I would never think to do. You kind of shoot yourself in the foot. So I'm not sure, are you learning from mistakes?
Absolutely. I think we've all learned an awful lot over the past years, and I certainly will continue to make mistakes. I'm not perfect, nobody is, but yes, we have learned from mistakes. But on
something that matters so much to you, that it didn't cross your mind that might be a bad idea?
We had a number of engagements with Indigenous peoples. We were moving forward. It was a mistake. It was an oversight, and it's one that I'm continuing to move forward. But reconciliation is not just about one person. It's about all of us. And yes, the symbolism and the importance of the Prime Minister leading on that is where I fell short. But there is so much more to do as well. And quite frankly, one of my bigger regrets is that first day of Truth and Reconciliation wasn't enough about reconciliation and healing.
Was because of you, though.
It ended up being because of me, and that is compounding the frustration that I have.
I guess, not to belabor this, because I'm not going to say this destroys your whole record on reconciliation, far from it, but I just wonder whether it shows that you're just a little bit out of touch or inoculated from understanding how things might be perceived.
I think that my focus is very much on doing the right things, and I think sometimes image is secondary to me, and that unfortunately is something we have to keep working on. But
I think that would surprise people that you would say image is secondary to me.
Yeah, I know, because we've been focused on actually doing things, on actually moving forward, on lifting boil water advisories, on delivering compensations and transforming things and protecting languages.
But you leverage your image for plenty of other things, so why would you not think that your image would have an impact on that day?
The image needs always to be in service of the substance of what we're doing, and unfortunately image does come second to me, and the substance comes first.
You're turning 50 on Christmas Day. Sorry to rub it in, but it might be a time to sort of consider, reflect on your life a little bit, I would think. I know you've told many people you're running again. I take you at your word that you're running again, but I wonder if you've given any thought to handing over the reins or what you would like to leave behind.
Right now, we're still very much in the middle of a crisis with the pandemic, but it has given us new insights as a government into the tools we have to counter crises.
Yeah.
And one of the things I'm very focused on, and even to a certain extent excited about, is what we're going to be able to do as we come out of this pandemic to apply these lessons on the pandemic to climate change, to housing, to reconciliation, to all the things that matter, to growing the economy.
Are you talking about the speed at which you're able to do things?
I'm talking about not just the speed, but using the full levers that we have as a government, that we developed and we created and we highlighted during the pandemic when it was so necessary, to actually do big things. And being 6 years into government, having an extraordinary cabinet right now that is so experienced in what it's doing, we have an ability to do an awful lot into the coming years. And that's what I'm focused on.
Do you think about being 50? Is that something you've been thinking about?
It's a number. Really, I feel great. I'm weary of this pandemic, as we all are. I was, reflecting on what we've all been through. But I'm filled with energy and intensity about the coming challenges. I mean, I'm 50, I've acquired a little bit of wisdom. I still have all my energy, and I'm looking forward to the next steps.
Just last question. So we've been talking about how sort of fed up everybody is with this, and they want to know when it's over. You obviously can't say that. If you could, you'd be really everyone would want to talk to you.
I'd also probably be wrong.
Well, maybe, yeah. So what conditions do you need to see to know that we are headed towards the end? Like, what are you going to watch for to know that we are moving away from pandemic into something else?
I think the numbers of vaccinations around the world is going to be it. Canada has shown that we're going to be able to keep up with boosters, going to keep up with getting vaccinated. How are we making sure we're ending COVID everywhere so it can be over anywhere?
Okay, I'll let you go. Thank you for making the time. Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Rosie.
Happy holidays.
Merry
Appreciate
Christmas.
it. Thank you.